Before we dive into this video, we'd like to hear your own chilling tales. We know many of you have experienced your own horror stories, and we want to hear them. Share your spooky encounters and unnerving experiences in the email below. Let's create a community of shared horror stories and enjoy the spine-tingling narratives together. And now, without further ado, let's begin this video and enjoy. I want to share a story that still haunts my dreams, a tale of a quiet getaway that turned into a chilling nightmare. It began when my partner and I decided to escape to a remote cabin, deep within a thick forest, booked through Airbnb. The host, who went by the name Victor, had been praised for his swift communication during the booking process. Little did we know that this secluded cabin would become a place of isolation, fear, and unspeakable horrors. As we arrived at the cabin, the silence of the forest enveloped us. It was the kind of stillness that left you feeling utterly alone. The nearest neighbor was miles away, and there was no cell service or Wi-Fi to connect us to the outside world. It was just us and the forest. Victor had left a key in a lockbox, and we entered the cabin, hoping for a peaceful retreat. The interior was quaint and cozy, with wooden furnishings and a stone fireplace. It seemed like the perfect escape from the chaos of the city. But as the night fell, things took a sinister turn. My partner and I discovered strange handwritten notes hidden throughout the cabin. These notes were filled with cryptic symbols and eerie drawings that sent shivers down our spines. The feeling of unease settled in, as if we were not alone in the cabin. The night was quiet, almost too quiet. The only sounds were the occasional rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. But then we heard it, faint whispers barely audible, coming from somewhere outside the cabin. We strained our ears, trying to make out the words, but they remained just beyond our grasp. As the night wore on, the whispers grew louder, and we could hear footsteps moving around the cabin. Panic set in as we realized that we were in the middle of nowhere, with no way to call for help. The feeling of being watched and followed became too much to bear. We decided that we needed to leave the next morning, but there was a problem. Victor, our host, was nowhere to be found. His car was parked outside, but he was conspicuously absent. The eerie notes and the mysterious whispers had left us terrified, and we couldn't stay in that cabin any longer. We called the police, and they arrived to investigate. What they discovered was beyond our worst nightmares. Beneath the cabin, there was a hidden underground chamber filled with disturbing objects, macabre art, eerie artifacts, and handwritten notes with names and dates that sent a chill down their spines. Victor was nowhere to be found, and a nationwide manhunt was launched to track down the elusive host. The revelations about the true nature of our host and the horrors hidden beneath the cabin left us shaken to our core. The lesson we took from this experience is a simple but important one. Always trust your instincts. If a situation doesn't feel right, don't hesitate to leave and seek help. The world can be a dark and unpredictable place, and it's crucial to prioritize your safety. The silence of the forest may hide more than you can imagine, and it's better to be cautious than to ignore your gut feeling. The wind howled like a banshee as I stood before the looming, decrepit mansion, its facade marred by the relentless march of time. Ravenwood Manor, they called it, and it was the stuff of local legends, a place whispered about by the bravest and feared by the wisest. No one had dared to enter its crumbling halls in decades, and for good reason. For hidden within its rotting walls was a malevolent force that preyed on the curious, the reckless, and the naive. My heart pounded like a drum as I, along with my friends, contemplated our decision. The dare had been simple enough: spend a night at Ravenwood Manor and come out unscathed. But the chilling tales of the place had already sent shivers down our spines. The mansion had a dark history, tales of gruesome murders and unexplained disappearances. As the door creaked open, we stepped into a dimly lit foyer that exuded a palpable sense of dread. The air was thick with the smell of decay and old secrets. The floorboards groaned beneath our feet, and the shadows seemed to dance and twist, as if they had a life of their own. We explored the decaying rooms, each more unsettling than the last. There were faded portraits of long-forgotten faces, their eyes following us with a malevolent glare. Dust-covered furniture lay shrouded in mystery, as if waiting for their owners to return. The walls were adorned with strange symbols and cryptic messages, whispered incantations of a bygone era. Hours passed, and the unease grew like a creeping fog. Whispers of voices that weren't our own echoed through the hallways. Doors slammed shut on their own, and footsteps followed us, although no one was there. Then we saw it. A figure shrouded in darkness, its eyes two burning orbs of malevolence. It stood at the end of the hallway, silently watching, waiting. As we approached, it vanished into thin air, leaving only an ominous whisper behind. We huddled together in the living room, fear coursing through our veins. The night wore on, and the malevolent presence grew stronger. Shadows moved with malicious intent, and ghostly figures tormented us. We were trapped in a living nightmare, prisoners of our own curiosity. Finally, it was one of us who snapped, screaming in terror as she pointed at a mirror that reflected her own terrified face. In the mirror's reflection, there stood the figure, the killer silent stalker, right behind us. It lunged forward, and a blood-curdling scream filled the air. I jolted awake, drenched in sweat, my heart racing. It had all been a dream, a terrible, vivid nightmare. My friends were safe, and we had never ventured into Ravenwood Manor. But the chilling horror of that night had seared itself into my memory. The lessons I had learned were clear. Curiosity may drive us to explore the unknown, but it can also lead us down a treacherous path. Some places are best left unexplored, and some secrets are better off hidden. In our quest for excitement and adventure, we had narrowly escaped the clutches of something far darker than we could have ever imagined. And so as I recount this tale, I implore you, dear listener, to heed the lessons of our harrowing night. Know that not all dares are worth pursuing, and not all mysteries are meant to be unraveled. The line between curiosity and recklessness is thin, and venturing too far into the unknown may bring consequences beyond your worst nightmares. The killer silent stalker of Ravenwood Manor may be confined to my dreams, but the terrors of our choices are all too real. I want to take you on a harrowing journey, one that reminds me of the fragility of life and the depths of human darkness. It all began with a couple's romantic getaway, a retreat to a remote cabin nestled deep within the dark woods. Little did they know that their peaceful escape would turn into a nightmarish struggle for survival. The cabin they had chosen was far away from civilization, surrounded by towering trees that seemed to touch the heavens. The nearest neighbor was miles away, and the only sounds that broke the silence were the rustling leaves and the distant cries of the forest. The couple had come seeking solace and intimacy, a break from the chaos of their everyday lives. They arrived at the cabin, their hearts filled with the promise of a romantic escape. The cabin was rustic and charming, with a crackling fireplace that cast flickering shadows on the wooden walls. It was the perfect setting for a night of love and connection. As they settled in, they reveled in the solitude and the absence of technology. It was just them, the cabin, and the dark woods that stretched out in every direction. The night was silent and peaceful, or so it seemed. But then, as the moon hung high in the sky, a chilling realization washed over them. They were not alone in the cabin. There was an intruder, a psychopathic killer who had targeted them in their remote sanctuary. Panic set in as they heard the heavy footsteps of the deranged murderer moving closer to their hiding place. With every breath they took, they knew that their lives were hanging by a thread. The killer's footsteps echoed through the cabin, drawing nearer and nearer. The couple had to rely on every ounce of strength and cunning to escape the clutches of the psychopath. They knew that the dark woods held secrets, but they were now in a fight for their lives. The desperate struggle to survive took them deeper into the forest, where they had to outwit their pursuer. Hours turned into days as they evaded the relentless killer, hiding in the shadows and moving with a stealth born out of sheer terror. The dark woods, once a symbol of serenity, had become a labyrinth of fear and despair. Finally, with the sun rising on the horizon, they managed to escape their relentless pursuer. The couple emerged from the dark woods, their bodies battered and their minds scarred. The experience had forever changed them, a reminder of the depths of darkness that can exist in the human heart. The lesson they took from that horrific night is one that lingers in their minds to this day. Never take safety for granted, even in the most idyllic of settings. Trust your instincts and be prepared to fight for your life if necessary. The world can be a terrifying place, and it's essential to prioritize your safety and the safety of those you love.